So Sophie's away this week, actually. She is probably, I don't actually know where she is right now. She's probably swanning somewhere in Vietnam with her new biff. But we have an extra special guest here to take over Soph. And watch out, Soph, because I reckon this gal is going to be giving you a run for your money. But we are very lucky to have India Leishman here in this virtual studio with us. Hey, Indy.
Hi, Vic. Yes, I'm coming for your job, Sophie, so watch out.
Watch out. Yeah, we wanted to thank everyone who submitted. We have, honestly, like an incredible Rolodex now of people that, we could almost make ourselves redundant, to be honest, that wanted to do this co-hosting gig. But we chose Indy. She came through our socials, and I'm pretty excited for this podcast.
I absolutely am too, and I feel like we have had, a friendship for many years, and it's been in my head a long time coming. I've just been absolutely chomping at the bit for the opportunity. So when I saw this advertised, I thought, this is it. This is the moment. Sophie's gone. I'm coming in. I'm going to take over. Just kidding. We obviously love Sophie, just here cosplaying her for one day.
But no, I was like stoked. I don't know, I always get a bit nervous. I'm like, oh, who's it going to be? Who's it going to be? And then, when the girls told me that it was going to be you, I was like, oh, amazing. Sweet. So we go way back. Amazing. But yes, we do actually go way back, don't we?
We absolutely do. And we really do have two fantastic guys from New Zealand to thank for this, because do you want to tell the story of how we met, or shall I?
Our exes were cousins. Thank you to those two boys.
Pop off to those boys. Thank goodness. They brought us together.
But no, Indy is based in London, and I'm coming back next week. And honestly, it feels like I've been gone for so long, but I'm really excited to come back. But do you want to tell people a bit of your background, a bit of where you work, what you do?
I would love to. So I am also in the podcasting space. I work for a startup in London called Flight Story. People may be familiar with some of our shows. We've got The Diary of a CEO as one of our big shows. We also have Begin Again with Davina McCall. We've got We Need to Talk with Paul C. Brunson, The Line with Dr. Kristen Holmes, and also Hot Smart Rich with Maggie Sellers-Riem as well. So quite the list, or the slate, I should say, of amazing shows. And yeah, I work in that startup, and it is honestly my dream job. So love being in the podcasting space, and any opportunity to be on a podcast, I will just, jump at the opportunity.
Whoop, whoop.
How was that for a commercial plug?
I know, that was spot on. I was like, they must be sitting in Flight Studio being like, thanks, Indy. It's Hot Smart Rich. Is that the new one that they've recently brought under the Flight Studios umbrella?
Yeah, it is. It's actually hosted by Maggie Sellers-Riem, and she is based in LA. So it's actually our first acquired podcast. So a lot of the other podcasts have been built from the ground up in Flight Story, and Hot Smart Rich is the first one we've acquired. And it's been fantastic. Like, we have only been going for, I'm going to say approximately maybe 3 months or so. And yeah, Maggie's the best. She's super, super intelligent. She gets incredible guests, but she's really fun with her conversations. She's talking all things business and female ambition, and sort of a similar vibe, I would say, to The Curve. Maybe slightly more business, slightly less finance, but we're calling it pop business as the category.
Ooh.
Going after pop business. Yeah.
I love that. Can we do pop investing?
Pop investing and pop business. I love that.
Soph's going to come back and we'll completely change the podcast. And it's like, we're actually a pop money and a pop investing podcast. She's going to be like, what? Anyway, okay, finance news. There is so much going on right now. And I feel like I say this all the time, but just everything to do with the Iran-Israel US conflict is causing such ripple effects around the world right now. And I've had friends message me being like, hey, Vic, what's happening? People are kind of worried. I also feel like we've kind of been hit left, right, and center every year. And I thought this year was going to be the year of, no cost of living crisis, no COVID, no Trump tariffs. And we were going to have a year of kind of smooth sailing, but oil prices is going through the roof.
We, the people, need a break.
I know.
No one can afford to do anything anymore. Like, it used to be fun, and now it's just stressful, and no one can have a baby. No one can buy a house, not to be all doom and gloom. And I know it's a lot worse for the people in the Middle East, and, we are still very privileged. But it's been a tough time and it's continuing.
And I feel like I'm complaining a lot more in the last few years than I have in a long time in terms of like the impact that the world is having on my finances. But in reality, yeah, when I just rattled off all those things we've actually had to deal with in the last kind of 6 or 7 years, it's been quite a lot and it has impacted people. And even just watching the news headlines come through, it's like oil was at $56 a barrel in December. And it is now, because of the Middle East conflict, $100 a barrel. Like that is an 80% increase. And oil, I thought petrol and us having to fill up our cars was the biggest impact, but it is literally used in everything, like makeup, shampoo and conditioner, clothing. So you've got like nylon, polyester, they use oil for those fabrics, your toothbrush, furniture foam. Like I was like Googling what is oil used in, and it's literally everything that we have in our households. And if anything, this war is looking like it's going to be going for much longer than we expect. I love how Trump was like, it'll be over in a few weeks. I'm like, when have you ever heard of a war being over in a few weeks? But
he's full lying. He's lying. And I have been thinking the same thing. I think when I first sort of was hearing that they were talking about oil prices going up, I immediately was thinking, okay, flights. And I'm thinking, okay, petrol in the car, gas in the car. But the reality is it's basically cost of living. It's everything. And if it isn't makeup or it's groceries getting delivered to the supermarket by trucks or it's the oil that's in certain ingredients, it really is everything. And I think that is probably something that, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for me, I think it's taken some time to sort of connect the dots and realize that actually this is impacting everything. And I think even, I spend quite a lot of time traveling to the US for work. I have been going to sort of LA sort of every other month for probably coming up a year now, and I consistently get the same flights. So it will always be like a Thursday afternoon at 3 p.m. and then I fly back on sort of a Friday at 5. And it's the same airline, and that flight has, I would say, quite consistently been around £360 for an economy basic fare the whole time. Like it really doesn't move too far out, even if it's 2 weeks out or a month out, it's sort of standard 360. And I'm heading back to the US in a couple of weeks, and I was having a look at flights again. That flight is now sitting at about $475. So
no.
And then you think about flying to New Zealand, like how the hell will we ever afford to go home?
I'm never coming back.
Exactly.
It's like airlines, it is their biggest expense. And there's also the added, debacle of people not wanting to fly through the Middle East. So there's flights that are now being, the flights through Asia and the US, if you're trying to get from, the bottom of the world to the top, are now in such high demand. But a lot of airlines have actually come out saying that they're having quite good financial results. And look, this is a lot of the US airlines, and it's reporting season at the moment in the US, which is when public companies report their financial results. And they're all coming out saying like things are looking great, travel demand is bouncing back, and like everyone's feeling really, optimistic about the future. I'm like, yes, but those are the previous. It's that you're reporting on the previous kind of three months or 12 months. And it's like people want to know, people are concerned about the future, not what's happened. But I think people are still feeling optimistic in terms of the spending ability to spend on flights. But what I think is now we will see start to come through is like inflation. When oil has gone up 80% and we're just talking about it being in absolutely everything, like that has to filter through to inflation. And we are starting to see a lot of central banks. So they're the banks that kind of set the interest rates in each country. We saw the Bank of England is looking like it's going to hold its interest rates. So it's not going to cut them. And I'll just take a minute to kind of explain, like in Australia, they put their interest rates up. So they put up interest rates to kind of curb inflation because it means that people spend less. So therefore inflation kind of gets contained. And so, yeah, the fact that in the UK, they're not cutting interest rates, which they were going to, because if you cut interest rates, people were encouraged to spend and then inflation kind of runs away. So they've kind of got this weird thing they have to juggle at the moment where, okay, a lot of economies around the world are not doing that great. Like if we take New Zealand and the UK, they're not doing that great. But we've got this inflation that looks like it's coming, but we can't lower interest rates to help the economy, which is encouraging people to spend more and go out and kind of boost the economy. So a lot of the economies get in this weird predicament of they might increase interest rates to stop inflation, but it gets you into this period of what we call stagflation, which is really, really dangerous.
Let's double click on stagflation.
Stagflation. So it's when the economy is like stagnant. So that's why you get the stagflation. So you've got a really slow economy, like in New Zealand at the moment, really slow economy. In the UK, really slow economy right now. And when you have a slow economy, you reduce interest rates so that things like debt, you can take on debt, debt's cheap. You can then start businesses or go out and spend more money. Credit card debt is cheaper, like all of that. Like when you lower interest rates, people don't get as much return on the savings in the bank, so they go and spend it. Like it helps stimulate things. But the central banks don't want to do that right now, because if they stimulate the economy too much, then it leads to inflation, and they're trying to control inflation. So stagflation is when you have a really slow economy, but you have high inflation at the same time. So you're kind of stuck in a rock and a hard place. And you're kind of going, we need to increase interest rates to control inflation, but we can't because the economy is really bad. And you're kind of, you're in a bit of a pickle. And it's not good from an economic standpoint.
Okay, so then my second question becomes, and obviously I appreciate you can't give us, financial advice, but at a time like this, what is actually the smart thing to do with your money? And I understand that is a super, super broad question, but responding to specifically what we're speaking about, what should people be thinking about?
Great question indeed.
That's $1 million question, or perhaps the $1 billion.
Yeah, billion. Kind of two things is there's always business cycles, right? Things happen in cycles, and they tend to last kind of maybe 5 years is what they say is like a typical business cycle. And then things, will get better or worse depending where you are. So look, I know it's a really boring answer, but with everything going on in the world and people, I'm still guessing what's going to happen. Will we end up with getting super high inflation, or maybe it will just be a non-event and I don't know, Trump will pull a hat trick and something else will, happen.
Stranger things have happened.
Exactly. Sounds like a boring answer, but like diversifying, investing in different countries, really, really important. Investing in different assets, like when you can. So like the property market, the stock market, that kind of thing. And also I think in a world if we do get really high inflation, just making sure that you have you have a budget, your expenses, so you can start if you need to. Knowing like what to cut back on or what not to, or what's costing you lots, or I don't know. Look, I don't think it's going to get dire. I think it's just more probably don't panic. We'll get through this. It might be unfortunately another tough year. I don't know. There's just been a lot of increased volatility in the world lately, and the best thing that you can do, the best defense is be diversified and just like keep investing through it, because you don't know, we might come out of this absolutely fine. And if you've kind of sat on the sidelines and been like, I don't want to invest, then you might actually be more worse off. Great English.
More worse off.
More worse?
Yeah, I'm following.
Yeah. But interestingly, in Asia, they've started to do so Asia's really, really reliant on oil from the Middle East.
I did hear this on your last week's episode.
Yes, yeah. And then I heard some examples of things they're doing already. They've already started to put in place, because they're like, oh gosh, we've got some reserves, but we're going to run out. So, well, hopefully they don't run out, but, we need to start cutting back now. And so places like Thailand has introduced mandatory work from home days, so people don't use scooters and cars to get to work or public transport. In other countries, they've started to mandate days that you can use your car.
Okay.
So certain days are like no car days. In the Philippines, they've introduced a 4-day work week.
These are drastic matters, and they're making these changes very, very quickly, which, is a little bit concerning, isn't it, how fast that's been implemented?
I know. It makes it feel quite real.
It's kind of giving, dare I say it, the COVID and the pandemic, the panic buying toilet paper.
Yep.
It is kind of giving a little bit of that same sort of vibe, but perhaps these are very smart measures. And do you know what's funny? I was talking to my mum about it, and she sort of said the same thing, that there had been sort of whisperings in New Zealand of having to ration fuel. Now, I don't know if that is, I don't know if that's actually the conversation in New Zealand right now or if she's just talking to her friends about it, but that's quite interesting because we are an island.
Yes, and I watched the news the other night and they had level 1. I don't know, I can't remember the different levels, but it was like, there was
COVID
like
all over again.
4 levels of extremities. And like the last one was like, we have to completely save and like no one's allowed on the roads. And I was like, oh my God, this is giving COVID vibes. So, and for anyone who wasn't in New Zealand at the time during COVID, we had this like traffic light system and it was like level 1, you were just social distancing. Level 2, you were only allowed to be in, have maximum gatherings of 25 people in restaurants, with only doing takeaway. Level 3. Anyway, it's giving hallmarks of that. And I'm like, oh dear gosh.
Actually, very incredible that you can even remember those different tiers. Oh. I feel like that information went in one side of my brain and completely out the other.
I actually speaking to my mum because the last oil crisis was in 1970s. And my mum texted our family WhatsApp the other day and she was like, back in the 1970s, we had to ration days that we used the car and everyone had stickers on their cars and you were allowed to use your cars on certain days. And it's quite wild. And then people that were well off and had 2 cars were allowed to have 2 stickers. And like, imagine having only allowed to use a car on a Wednesday and then someone sees you on a Thursday and they're like, hang on a second.
Victoria's out. I've seen her. She's getting coffee in her car on a Friday. She's only a Monday permit holder. Like, what is she doing? It is so bizarre. And I know I don't want to make light of huge, geopolitical events, but it is genuinely, you do have to sit there and think, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
We are now in a place where these sort of measures are even being considered. Would we have ever expected us to regress to such a place as the 1970s?
100%. And that a war in the Middle East between 2 countries can impact the whole world in some degree is still quite crazy that we're so reliant on, a small part of the world. But you know who is winning out of all of this?
Please tell me.
BP and Shell. Their share prices have done so well.
So the people who invested in BP and Shell, let's say towards the end of last year, obviously maybe had some feelings that something might unfold. Now's the time to sort of get involved in those businesses, invest. Do you think there are, again, I'm asking for financial advice, but not asking for financial advice. Are there opportunities, do you think, that we should be looking at and considering in terms of investments or areas to invest in? I know we sort of spoke about that a bit earlier, but is it like perhaps renewable energy or is it maybe it's local tourism if people can't really travel or?
Yeah, look, I think, some people will want to take advantage of this, which I think is like a short-term trend. The oil price, there's always it always corrects back to, kind of reasonable levels. Like in 2022, when the Russia-Ukraine war broke out, we saw the oil price go up, higher than it is right now. But yeah, if we look at the share price performance of the S&P 500, so the top 500 companies in the US, 2022 was a terrible year. The stock market was down 20%. So oil can have an impact on the stock market. But we've rebounded and we've had 2 years since then where the stock market's up, over 20% per year. So this is kind of, I hope a short-term impact. But so look, there will be people that are like, you're right, they could have seen that this was going to happen or they could see tensions rising in the Middle East and they bought BP and Shell and, their portfolios are now up 30%. But for me, I think this will create a surge in and hopefully a realization that the world could be so disrupted because of its reliance on oil. We need to accelerate renewable energy projects around the world. And yes, that's a longer term theme, but I am a long-term investor.
We're not reactive investors on this podcast.
No, exactly. No. And yes, the oil price has gone up and oil producers like the BPs and Shells are doing very well right now, unfortunately. But I'm a long-term investor and long-term, I think this will be a big kick up the bum for the world about getting their A into G with, moving more towards renewable energy or diversifying their energy sources, right?
Preach.
Yes.
Oh, great. I've just spilled coffee all over myself.
Oh, no. Are you all right?
Yeah, no, I'm fine. It's ever so slightly on your chair is my concern.
Oh, it's all right.
Do you know what it's reminding me of? Did anyone see those memes of that guy Jake Shane? I don't know if you saw him. Do you know him?
Oh, he's so funny.
He's so funny, and he's basically he was signing some autographs the other day. I'm going off on a random tangent here, but I have to explain myself
Go
because
for it.
I'm clearly embarrassed. He was signing some autographs with like a Sharpie, like a Vivid, and he like put it in his mouth for 1 second, and then when he pulled like to the side, and then when he pulled it away, he had this like black mark on his cheek, and he sort of like also dropped the Vivid, so then it like marked his top. And I've now done that with coffee. So me and Jake Shane, yeah, cut from the same cloth. But anyway, we move on.
I don't know why I find him hilarious. He could do anything and it would make me laugh.
Yeah, he is the funniest creator. I really do think that too.
Yeah.
He's so awkward.
So awkward, but kind of like confident, but then funny. I don't know. Yeah, he's great. We've also had some news from Gap, actually. So I mentioned it was reporting season. So we've got a lot of companies reporting financial results. And it is a really interesting time to kind of, if you're invested in the company, you can see how it's done. You know, any outlook statements that the management team gives is always like a really good indication, you know, of how well or bad things are doing. Or if you're interested in the company or whatever. Anyway, so Gap has come out and announced its financial result, and it produced $15 billion in revenue last year. And this is its 8th straight quarter of sales growth. So that's like growth on growth on growth, you know, like in 8 consecutive years. And like this is so wild because Gap has had such a rebrand. Like it was so uncool and kind of going nowhere. And now it's just had it's got such a time in the sun right now. And it's kind of had this whole movement back to like its basics and focusing on its core. And also, you know what also helped is that Cat's Eye campaign.
Yeah.
Oh, that was iconic. That was, and such a FU to, what was the brand with Sydney Sweeney? American something.
American Eagle?
American Eagle. Yeah.
That was iconic, and I love that it was Callus Milkshake.
Oh my God, I know, it's so good.
Bring that song back. Like
I
that
know.
almost needs the, Murder on the Dance Floor, Sophie Bextor, got the Saltburn resurgence. Let's bring back Milkshake.
I heard S Club 7 on the radio this morning.
Wow.
And oh my goodness, I knew every lyric.
Which song was it?
S Club.
Oh, tune. Yeah.
Honestly, on the motorway, just going through every single word. And I was like, every single lyric. And I was like, wow, that's quite crazy that I can remember this from like 20 years ago.
They are also due a reunion tour. They really are.
Yeah.
Side note, just pivoting back to Gap for a second. I find it always interesting that we call it Gap, but if you're in America, they call it the Gap.
Yes.
You notice that?
Yeah.
But you know what's really interesting? So I was having a bit of a search around yesterday to talk a bit more about this topic. And I thought this was fascinating. So do you know what sort of the success of Gap has been largely attributed to?
Well, the Cat's Eye campaign. Jokes. No.
The Cat's Eye campaign, but also their current CEO is a guy called Richard Dixon, and he actually has previously been at Mattel, and he is sort of cited or credited, I would say, as sort of the lead architect of Mattel having this like resurgence and Barbie having this real revival. So when he arrived at Mattel, which I think was like, I'm going to say 2014, the sales of Barbie were basically in like double-digit decline, like it's not doing well at all. And I think it was in a stage where lots of mums and people who would have maybe historically bought Barbie dolls has sort of turned away because they felt like the brand was slightly outdated or like it didn't really promote realistic body standards and it wasn't representative. And he basically went in and changed everything. So he created like dolls that had new body shapes, new ethnicities. They did more sort of real world collaborations. And he has like literally put Barbie back on the map, so much so that it went on to, I guess, culminate in the Barbie film that came out, the Greta Gerwig film that came out a few years ago, which I think was like one of the highest grossing films in the US of 2023.
Look at you with all your facts.
I know. The student becomes the master, if you will. Just joking. Absolutely not. But he has basically come in, to Gap and is now having, we're seeing phenomenal success with Gap. And I think it's quite interesting to watch what he has done with Barbie, what he is now doing with Gap. And I think the takeaway here is like wherever he's going, we need to be investing because this man knows what's up.
I was about to say that. I was like, those are the CEOs that you follow because they have such a good track record. They're almost like founders, right? They want to like leave a legacy and actually turn around a business and not just get a few years of good profit growth and say see you later. But you're so right that as you were speaking, I was like, this is what I want to say, and you took the words out of my mouth.
We're like one of those couples that just finishes each other's sentences, aren't we?
Stop it, yeah.
So kindred. But no, it's pretty remarkable, I think. And do you see that? Are there any other? And I'm really putting you on the spot here, but are there any other? It's almost like a serial CEO, a serial successful CEO that you might look at and think what they've done here is brilliant. You may not have any off the top of your head.
Off the top of my head, like there is founders that have been bought back when a business is struggling. So, like Steve Jobs, for example, he got outs from Apple like years ago, and then he got bought back, and it's like been amazing. When I have seen it, or when you know this is going to be kind of a good CEO, is usually someone, let's say Netflix announced that you were taking over as CEO, and it announced,
good God, poor Netflix,
that India Leishman was taking over as CEO. And if I didn't know anything about your history, usually if the share price goes up on that announcement, people who know your history and know that you previously were at Disney and you did a great job, and now you've come to Netflix, so the likelihood is going to do a good job. So usually if there's an announcement of a CEO change and the share price goes up, people are like, woohoo, either the previous one was an absolute dud and they're just like, thank goodness, or the track record is usually pretty good of where they were, even if they weren't CEO, right? If they might have been like an absolute gun head of Asia or head of Americas or, something like that. But yeah, it is. You're so right. If you saw this guy leave Gap and then he popped up at Nike or something, you'd be like, okay, well, the probability he's going to do a good job here is pretty high.
So he is actually, funnily enough, he's still quite young. He's at 58.
Oh.
I mean, I don't know if people necessarily agree that that's quite young, but to me, he's a young king.
Yeah, for a CEO, that's pretty young.
Yeah. So I think it will be kind of interesting to watch where he goes. I mean, he might stay at Gap forever, who knows? But yeah, pop off Richard, Dick Dixon, doing his thing and killing it daily.
Also,
yes, talk to me.
We have some other news with a retail brand, Jo Malone.
Yes.
The amazing perfume. And I just always go into the stores and kind of spray myself, pretend I'm looking to buy something and then walk out so I can't afford it.
How many people are doing that? Because every single time I fly internationally, I'm straight to the Jo Malone.
And I try to be really coy and I'm like,
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just,
I've never seen this brand before.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, accidentally slipped.
Little Blackberry and Bay. Yeah. Yeah, I'm like hosing myself.
And you see them coming towards you and you're like, oh, leave. Yeah.
You're like, oh, what's over there? But you know what? She is tried and tested. Jo Malone perfume. My God, it's the only perfume I wear.
Well, this is super relevant for you. She's actually being sued, Jo Malone.
Terrible.
She is being sued by Estee Lauder because she used her own name. So she is a person. Jo Malone is actually a person. She used her own name on a perfume that she created for Zara. So back in, when was it, 1999, she sold Jo Malone, the brand, which was also her name, to Estee Lauder. And as part of that deal, she actually gave up the rights to use her own name, which was so wild. Imagine not being able to use your name. I'm like,
it's mental.
Yeah. It wasn't even called Jo Malone perfume. It was like in the packaging it said a creation by Jo Malone, and now she's being sued by Estee Lauder. And she says, as part of that deal when she sold to Estee Lauder, her selling her brand was the worst decision of her life, which is so sad.
It's honestly terrible. And not funny story actually, no part of the story is funny, but it's one of those things people say. She has come on one of our podcasts again. Shameless plug. She did come on Begin Again with Davina McCall, and she talked a lot about that experience and just her whole life in general. But what I thought, was, I guess, just so sad is she obviously sold these rights back in 1999, and I'm sure, she sold them for a lot. I don't think they ever announced exactly how many million it was, but I'm sure it was a comfortable, sum. But I just think what is interesting is I think I read somewhere she had a non-compete until like 2011 or something. It was 2010, 2011. And she's basically come out saying the reality is it's a lifetime non-compete because if your name is your name. And what I find also quite interesting is she went on to create another brand, which is called Jo Loves. Have you seen the packaging for that?
Yeah.
I'll be brutally honest here. For a long time, I did think it was like a dupe brand. Like I really was like, this is horrendous. They really need to get a new product designer. The packaging is not giving. And I was like, that's so funny. Ha ha ha. Someone's obviously just trying to, rip off Jo Malone. Then I worked out, actually it is the OG Jo Malone. But it's just so sad, isn't it? And it's something you wouldn't necessarily think about having a lifelong impact. But yeah.
It is strange that a lot of skincare and beauty brands are the founder's name. Like Bobbi Brown, the same thing happened to Bobbi Brown. She got bought out by Estee Lauder and had a non-compete and couldn't use her own name. But if you think about a lot of the brands like Charlotte Tilbury, Emma Lewisham, like they're all their own names, and it's quite
bold.
Yeah, it's like why is it just in the beauty space?
I don't know, because I suppose it's almost the same as if you think of fashion brands as well. Like, didn't the same thing happen to Kate Spade?
Yeah, true, actually.
So Kate Spade is another one. So she went on to change her name, I think, as well. She actually became Kate Valentine so that she could start a new brand. Like she changed her legal name.
I guess a good learning, right? The sparkliness of a great deal. Like Estee Lauder coming along and wanting to buy Jo Malone probably was like so incredible for her that she didn't think it through or didn't think that it would be a big deal. And so it's probably just a good reminder, whatever size the deal, if it's a smaller transaction or a bigger one, just taking the time to think about or get legal advice on the impact that could have financially and in terms of opportunities for yourself or other businesses that you want to launch in the future. Yeah, because that would really suck. Well, at least we could still make businesses called India Leishman and Victoria Harris. There we go. The world's our oyster.
Yeah. It's interesting no one's, taken either of those names yet. They're so catchy as businesses, right?
Jo Malone, if you want to take Victoria Harris, it's, go nuts. I'm okay with it.
It's like you notice that with law firms as well. It's always like last name and last name. Like it would be Leishman Harris and Leishman.
Yeah.
Associates or something.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the beauty space seems to have it legal.
Maybe we should start a podcast, a media company called Leishman and Harris.
We'll have to bring in Horright. Leishman, Harris. How would it go? I don't think Leishman's going first. Surely that's last. I think it's like Horright, Harris.
And Leishman and partners.
And partners. Definitely and partners. I love it. Okay, well, that's what we'll do next.
Yeah. Watch the space, everyone. Yes, big things are coming
in hot next year.
And lastly, we've got some rumours out of Unilever that they are going to spin off their food business. Now, Unilever is a absolutely massive company. It's like one of the top 5 companies in the UK. It is £100 billion business. It is got 400 brands under its umbrella, like from personal care to household goods to, you've got Dove, Lynx, Vaseline, Dermalogica under the skincare brands. You've got like Persil. You've got, honestly, I think you'd be quite surprised at the number of brands that you recognize under Unilever. And last year they actually spun off their ice cream division. So they had a lot of issues with Ben & Jerry's and they bought Ben & Jerry's into the Unilever umbrella, and then they had issues with the team there. And so they ended up kind of combining that with Magnum and a few other brands and spinning that out into an ice cream company, which hasn't done too badly, actually. It's a listed company now.
People love ice cream.
People love ice cream. But they're now looking, and that was only in December that they spun off this ice cream division. And now they're looking to spin off more of the food business, like the brands like Marmite, Coleman's mustard, all those kind of condiments and staples. And the share price actually fell on this news. So because people think, obviously, if you have a business, you buy it because of all its assets. So if you're carving off some of it, it's going to be
less valuable.
But then they tend to structure it, and usually, companies that are spun off or brands that are spun off actually do better outside of a big parent because they get more attention and more capital and all of that. But it's just an interesting move for Unilever to firstly spin off its Magnum ice cream division, Secondly, now it's rumored, and it's not confirmed, but it's rumored to be spinning off its, more of its food business. And I'm like, it obviously just sees opportunity in just the beauty and personal care space, because that's what's growing, that's what's profitable. So it's like, you know what? We just need to streamline our business and focus on the part that's doing well, which I think, sounds like it would make sense, right? Rather than trying to do a bit of everything.
Well, I guess they're channeling their focus perhaps.
Yeah.
If personal care is the space that is booming for them, I suppose it does make sense. But I didn't even realize until sort of researching for this that, as you said, Unilever had so many brands under its umbrella. To me, it always had just been a personal care brand, and I always thought it was, your toiletries, that side of things. I didn't realize they were in food at all.
No, I know. And it's like, it's not till you kind of turn over the packet and you look and there's a little Unilever and you're like, geez, they really do own everything. But I think it's also the trend of people are spending less on like branded food. They're wanting to kind of buy local and like organic and all of that, not the mass market brands so much. People are switching to cheaper supermarket options. So, when we have times of toughness in the economy, you go to the Aldi's and the Costco's and all of that. And then also the weight loss drugs. It's really cutting back on snacking and
the GLP-1s. They are having a hit.
They are having ripple effects through everything. Also, with the doubling down on the kind of the beauty and personal care space, Sophie and I went to an event a few weeks ago when we were in New Zealand, and there was this incredible lady who we're trying to get on the podcast, and she's called The Futurist, and that's like her title. I'm like, how cool.
Love that.
Anyway, she was talking about these kind of 3 big structural trends, and I won't spoil it in case she does come on the podcast, but one of them, which is what we know, is like everyone's living longer, right? But she was like, you're not living longer at 100, even though you are actually, you might be living to 120 now, when we get to that age. But you're extending the life in your kind of 30s and 40s. And with that, obviously, comes a whole lot of wealth planning changes. But it comes with a lot of focus on health and wellness, personal care, how to improve your overall health, like supplements. We're seeing peptides, we're seeing GLP-1s, we're seeing, all of this stuff. And it's because people are extending their lives in that kind of middle-aged part.
What do you mean extending their lives?
So people are living longer, but we're not living longer when we're kind of old and unable to move around or do anything. We're extending our lives in the kind of 30, 40, 50-year-old age. People are like, 30 is the new 40 and 40 is the new 50.
Yes.
It's like we're extending in that.
Wait, do you mean 40 is the new 30?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Because I'm concerned. I'm either 20 years behind or...
I kind of think both work, right?
To me, it's like if you're 40, I would say if you're 40, it's the new 30 because everyone's doing things later. I was like, shit, now I'm really behind. No, okay.
And like everything, like delaying having kids and like all of that stuff. People are, you're trying to extend your fun years, not your years when you can't do anything. So anyway,
totally.
It was just such an interesting chat, and I hope we get her on the podcast. But I think when I was looking at this and researching, I was like, I'm starting to see a lot of little signs that, whether it's my TikTok feed that's full of bloody health and wellness and creatine and electrolytes and all of that versus compared to announcements like this where Unilever, one of the biggest companies in the world, is honing in on personal care and beauty and all of that. I don't know. It's just like, there's a lot of like ding, 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 ding.
Oh, yeah.
This sounds like a trend.
I mean, I would never have even taken creatine as of a couple of years ago. I don't even know what it was. But now, I take creatine gummies every single day.
Yeah.
And it seems that is just sort of a trend. Oh, well, not a trend necessarily. I think you're bang on there. I think we are, trying to extend those middle years of our life. And I'm sure, when our parents were our age, they were not sitting around taking collagen and creatine and all of these supplements and electrolytes. But it's almost just become such a normal part of our lives today. Hopefully it pays off in the long run and we're all looking 30 at 50.
And feeling 30 at 50. And we do have a question from the community actually. It is from Maddie and she goes, hey girls, any tips from Vic on how to get into finance as a career? Just want to hear all about how she got into it. I have a law degree, so I'm not quite the same as a BCom, but any help she can give or tips, love the potty.
This one's all you, Vic.
Yeah, I'm like, do you want to handle this one?
Yeah. Well, look, in my experience, no.
Yeah.
This is your moment to shine, Vic. Take it away.
Well, Maddie, thank you for your question. I love getting emails, texts, anything like this, because I'm like, the more women that we can get interested in finance and studying finance and getting in the finance industry, I am all here for. Look, I studied law as well and absolutely had a blowout. I just realized very quickly law was not for me. I tried my absolute hardest, poured my heart and soul into first year law. And I remember getting my paper back and it was a C. And it was this time in my life where I felt very mature and I was like, you know what? I put 120% into that and I got a C. Like, this is when you tap out proudly, Vic, and you go, you know what? It's just not for me. Anyway, that was the law side. But finance, look, I think firstly studying at uni, huge help. And she sounds like she's on the way to do that. And then I think it's just being open about the roles in finance. My first job was at Milford Asset Management, which is a large funds management company in Australia and New Zealand. At the time, they were tiny. I had no idea who they were. I didn't know anything about them. I started literally answering the phones, making coffee, getting the mail. And I remember I was like, I studied 4 years for this. You're like, what? It was really good to, learn.
Eat a slice of humble pie and
totally. And just, it was, I got in at the perfect time of a growing funds management company, and I had so many incredible opportunities ahead of me. And I think that's the thing. It's like, don't be stressed out if you're like, I only want to work for this company, or I don't actually know where in finance I want to end up, because there's investment banking, there's financial advice, there's analysts, there's so many different roles within finance that just kind of take one. Figure it out. You might not like it, but it might be an opening into something else, or I don't know. Yeah, just kind of go with the flow a bit and get what you can. Then you'll figure out where your strengths are. You might be a really great people person, and therefore, maybe the relationship management kind of side, whether it's a financial advisor or something, might really interest you, or you really might like numbers and analyzing, and you can go down that route. So there's just, I didn't know all the different roles when I entered the industry. So yeah, it was quite good to kind of see lots of different stuff and then pick and choose and then end up where I wanted to end up. So yeah.
And I think that is such good advice for anyone sort of starting off in their career. I think like your 20s is the best time to just go in and learn. Yeah. And try a whole bunch of different things. And I think if I look back at my early career, when I was in my early 20s, I was so determined to have like the perfect job and be exactly where I needed to be. And I think actually the better step for me would have been to just go in and do lots of different roles and sort of figure out what I was good at or what I was interested in, because I've had so many friends who started careers in one field and then did it for 5 years now, like, actually, I hate this. Whereas I think any opportunity to sort of go in and just be around totally different people in different roles, be like, that's a bit of me. I kind of like this. I'm also interested in this, because you never know where your career takes you.
Yeah.
Those random little skills. And I think my sort of career, I worked as a journalist for 5 years. Then I moved into a marketing role for a couple of years, and then also did sort of producing type work as well. And I remember thinking when I got to London, I was like, where the hell am I going to find a role that is like news reporting, journalism, producing, but also more, marketing and social media? And then the role in the company that I work for now was sort of created, which was a new role. And it was essentially, they needed someone who had a background in marketing and social production and also, writing and journalism, essentially. So you just kind of never know where those skills will sort of culminate and land you in the future.
And you always end up where you're supposed to be, like I remember there was a chance for me to move from answering the phones and getting the mail into the investment team or into kind of the financial advisor team. And I sat there and I stewed over it for so long, and I was like, I don't know. And then I went down the investment team route. So effectively that's when the advisors go out and get the money from the clients and they give it to you and you invest it. And I remember like, gosh, what if I'd chosen the other route and kind of had gone down there? And I'm like, but everything, and it sounds woo-woo, but I genuinely believe that everything happens how it's supposed to happen, and like you're where you are and I'm where I am, all because of those little decisions. Whether, I may have taken the financial advisor team route, but ended up back here somehow. I don't know. You just always end up where you're supposed to end up. So don't stress yourself out too much.
Super aligned.
Mic drop.
You've hit the nail on the head. I would drop mine, but it's connected to this thing. But yes, metaphorical. You've killed it.
And with that, we're actually going to not drop our mics, but turn off our mics and
we're going to throw our mics on the floor and walk out. We're done.
But thanks, everyone. And thanks for subbing in for Soph, Indy. Hopefully she takes more holidays and you can join more often.
Truly, that was so much fun. And thank you for making this such a gorgeous experience for me and for bringing the best topics and the best vibes and creating such a wonderful platform that you and Soph have created. Truly, what you girls are doing is just remarkable. We need more of this and we need more women like Maddie getting into finance. So, Maddie, hope you'll come and join Vic and Soph and, be part of the brigade.
Love that. Thanks, Indy. And here's to our exes for introducing us.
Thank God. We're not going to give them name shout-outs, but, they know who they are and hop off to those fellas, those Kiwi lads.
Yeah, New Zealand's a small place.
Thank you so much for listening to The Curve Weekly. Make sure you hit subscribe or follow wherever you're listening so you're always up to date with the latest finance and investing news.
And feel free to leave a comment to let us know what you thought about this episode because we would love your feedback.
We've got new Curve Weekly episodes for you to listen to every Monday, but until then, listen to Erasing the Curve. These are our in-depth podcast episodes where we chat about all things money.
We're also around all week on socials if you're hungry for more Curve content, and all the links are in this podcast's show notes. We hope you have a great week and we'll catch you for the next episode of The Curve Weekly on Monday.
Okay, quickly, The Curve was created to empower and educate you about investing, but we are not financial advisors.
Our platform exists for educational purposes only, and it doesn't provide personalized investing advice for your individual needs and should not be relied upon to make an investment or financial decision.
And always remember to do your own research before making any investment or financial decision.
We're here for any knowledge and support you need, but the final call is always yours.
And thanks for being here.
You got this.
Yeah, we know you got this.